So this is week 9 of my marathon training block for the Dublin and Florence marathons. This is the beginning of my taper for the Dublin marathon. So this week features a reduction in mileage, and as mentioned at the end of my previous training video, I had a bit of a hip problem towards the end of my long run the Sunday before this week, so this week was even shorter than originally planned. So we'll get into the details now. On Monday, as I always, began with hill reps, so just the usual 8 hill reps up this hill that you can see, 30 seconds up sprint, and then a minute to get back down and recover, and then straight back into the next rep up the top of the hill. Following this in the afternoon, I did a swim in the pool, so kind of this is just good for the legs for recovery in the colder water. So yeah, about 25-30 minutes in the pool, usually 1300 meters, and yeah, nice and easy. So then moving on to Tuesday, and I did my final threshold session. So this was a 3x4k threshold session, which is about 66% of my previous threshold session, which was 3x6k. So it's kind of following in the same pattern, but I'm just reducing the intensity because it's taper week. So the way that I'm doing that is maintaining the speed, but just reducing the amount of the interval sets themselves. So in between each of these, I took a 3-minute rest. So in the longer stints in the 6Ks, I was taking a kilometre. This time I'm just taking 3 minutes. So overall the mileage was 7 kilometres shorter than what my 6K rep session would have been. But other than that, pretty good session. Got in, the total run was an hour. So yeah, pretty good run and plenty of work at threshold. And then I'm just easing down now for the final week. So just a nice, again, easy way on Wednesday morning to kind of get the blood flowing through the legs, and a nice just keep the base fitness where it is. Just did a 45-minute session on the indoor bike. So that was kind of at lunchtime. Then in the afternoon, went out, and the plan was to do 21 kilometers just at recovery pace. I kind of wrapped this up around 18.5 kilometers in, and basically the hip flexor pain was getting, it wasn't extremely painful, but it was only getting worse as the run was going on. And when things are just getting worse throughout the run, it's a sign that you should probably stop and just dial it back. And obviously being this close to marathon week, I wasn't really taking any risks. So yeah, stopped this one early and did 18.5 kilometers. So based on that pain, I kind of decided I was going to really focus. I was getting into the gym every night working on my hip, so I was doing both stretching and strength training. There's a video over on TikTok if you want to see that. It's the same name as this channel. But on the Thursday, I decided to just take a total day off from running. So I went to the swimming pool instead. Did 1800 meter session, so 6x300 meters. I'm not doing anything kind of very intense in the pool. I'm just kind of going along, plodding away. But yeah, that was my only session. So again, the cold water kind of good for recovery, and it's good for the overall fitness, but it's not really taxing for the body. And if anything, it's probably helping the hip flexor. So yeah, the pool is quite a good one to take up if you're struggling with injuries. So after that rest day, I kind of did want to finish up with another speed session in this week, just because I basically wanted to test the hip at speed. And it was kind of feeling a little bit better. I basically was only feeling the pain when running on Wednesday, so it basically hadn't been sore all the time. So what I did was went to the pool at lunch, did another 300 meters, 4 reps of that session. And then in the afternoon I went out to the track and did my last kind of track session. So this is a VO2 max session. I did 5x1k and then 2x400 meters. So again, this is a bit shorter as in terms of fewer reps than my basically the same session the previous week. And the purpose of this is, again, it's in taper week. I'm just reducing that intensity but keeping the same sort of stimulus in my training. And yeah, so basically the 5x1k was obviously tough. Took 75 seconds in between each, but it's obviously not as tough as doing 8x1k, so a little bit easier. And the thing was, my hip, there was no problems at all throughout this session, so it kind of gave me this idea that maybe the issue was gone, or the gym work was kind of working magic, and that everything was okay. So I was feeling pretty good after this session, and then looking forward to doing a bit of a longer run the weekend. So then moving on to Saturday, and I was doing a session. Basically my plan was to do around 25 kilometers at 20 seconds slower than my marathon pace. So my marathon pace is somewhere around 350 per kilometer, so my aim was to average around 410 per kilometer, which I did manage in this session. But kind of as I was going up hills, which I made sure to include in this run because the Dublin Marathon has a few of these hills in it, basically as I was going along, my hip was just not mixing well with these hills at all. It wasn't getting really painful. It was just kind of feeling just nearly like annoyed. It wasn't happy basically going up all these hills. So what I decided to do was just cut it short at 20 kilometers. So I got just under an hour and a half. So obviously it's still a pretty decent session, just over a week before the marathon, and I did it on the Saturday instead of the Sunday, just for an extra day's recovery. But I pretty much decided at this point that I was just going to take a few full days off from running, rather than I'd only give myself one proper rest day, and again just working every night in the gym. So that was Saturday for me. So it was a productive session. It was a good kind of aerobic endurance session, and I will benefit from that in the long term. But it also showed me that maybe the hip isn't where it needs to be, so still put a bit of work in and just give it a few days rest, and then we'll come back in next week in the runs. So first run next week is going to be Wednesday, so that's 3 full days off running, and it should basically help me to increase the strength in it and just basically get rid of this little niggle I have. So I don't want to totally just stop running until the marathon, because I mean basically the body will just kind of take a few kilometers at least, or just may not settle into the rhythm at all throughout that marathon. So you do want something in beforehand. So I'll be doing a couple of runs next week just to kind of get the body in place, and then Sunday is obviously when I bring the speed into it. So for the remainder of the weekend, on Saturday evening I just jumped on the bike for about just under an hour. I was basically just wanted to jump on while I was watching the Formula 1, so it kind of worked out well. It's just a bit of get the blood flowing through the legs. I don't really find this irritates the hip at all, so it kind of sounds counterintuitive on a bike. You're obviously kind of are moving the hips a bit, but I guess because it's a stationary bike, it maybe just doesn't have that same kind of detrimental effect. So yeah, that was basically it for Saturday. And on Sunday went to the pool in the afternoon. I did a 1500 meter session, so 100 meters, then 2, then 3, then 4, and finished with 500 meters. So this is just again kind of building up that sort of fitness and a bit of endurance, being in the water for a bit longer. And then in the afternoon again just jumped on the bike for an hour and a half, just a nice easy effort. Like, I'm not putting any kind of intensity into these bike sessions at all. It's really just kind of ticking along, just build the fitness up a little bit, but basically just something to keep the legs moving while I'm off my feet basically. And just something that I was doing while watching the Formula 1, so it was kind of more just to keep me going while I was watching that. I do find it pretty hard to take full days off running. I obviously enjoy getting out and doing the runs, so it is tough to totally take full days off. So having things like the bike there is pretty good. It gives me kind of the mental side of it where I don't feel like I'm losing fitness, even though I know I won't lose fitness over a couple of days not running, but being this close to the marathon, I feel like I don't want to just stop totally, and then have to sort of get the body back into a rhythm when I just suddenly pick things up towards the end of next week. So I like to just keep things going, but at the same time I am kind of battling with a little niggling injury, so it's kind of finding that balance there. But every day, as I said, working in the gym, stretching and strengthening the hip, so I am putting it in a much better place. And I mean, it's Wednesday today, so I've just done my first run since back, and it went fine. So the rest probably has been good for it. It's just sort of the mental side of it, making myself take the rest. But overall for the week, it went relatively well considering the fact that I had an injury. So my mileage did reduce by about 50%, well, just over 50%. Went from 150 to 70 kilometers. My plan had been to get in around 110 kilometers for the week, so obviously I have missed a couple of runs there, but there's not much I can do, and at this stage rest is only going to benefit me. It's not going to be detrimental. So overall a decent week considering I'm carrying an injury, and just hopefully that nothing flares up now in the next week. I've done a video on my goals for Dublin Marathon if you want to watch that. That's on my YouTube page there, uploaded the other day. Next video will probably just be the results of the Dublin Marathon. There won't be a lot of training going on next week, so it's probably not worthwhile uploading a training video. So next video will probably be we'll find out whatever happens. Anybody who's been watching along, thanks for watching along, and we'll see what happens in Dublin.